Seems like every year I come to a point where I decide to try out a disc that everyone seems to love, but for whatever reason I've never tried out before. This year I'm starting off trying out the Discmania PD. Pretty much every Discmania Pro throws this. A ton of people love this disc, and I'm also using the original Nordic Phenom because it's in a very nice swirly S-line plastic, and I did want a little bit of a more understable version of the PD. I'll kind of explain why in a minute. Now, I had sort of two ends of the spectrum of the PD in my bag before this. I had a Thunderbird for quite some time, which was kind of like same stability, but not quite the same distance. Like it felt like the Thunderbird was a little bit closer to my 7 speeds. It was kind of like the Thunderbird was like a slightly longer version of my FD1s. And then last year I picked up the Drive, which I really liked, which filled the slot of kind of more of a woods disc that was under my Destroyers, because the Destroyers just like weren't super reliable in the woods. I didn't need that much distance usually, and they were a little bit swirly. I feel like the PD kind of gets the best of both worlds between the two of those. It has that sort of tick down from a distance driver in terms of speed, but it still goes further than a typical fairway driver. And it's also really nice because it has a sort of fairway driver type rim, so it feels really nice in the hand for a 10 speed. But it has that stability that the Thunderbird has, where the Drive was kind of situational. I couldn't really use it on a lot of holes. The PD I feel like I can use on a ton of holes, and it can be a very, very nice disc for me in the woods, out in the open. Just very good neutral flying disc if I want to push out further than my fairway drivers, but I don't want to throw a Destroyer. Or an Emperor, which might be what's replacing my Destroyers this year. We'll see. So I want to force myself to learn this disc a little bit. I've thrown it a couple of times since I've gotten it. Obviously I haven't done a video on it yet, but I haven't really gotten a chance to really test it out on a bunch of different holes. So I'm going to play the front 9 here at Chi-Lite and force myself to throw this for every single hole, even on upshots if I need to, and I'll just use my putters when I'm putting. Pretty good variation of holes here. Should be able to get a pretty good feel for it. Also, it is absolutely gorgeous out today. Like, I think it's gonna get up to 70 almost in March. If you thought some of the other days were nice out, which they were, this is by far the best day yet. Anyway, hole 1, 335, a little bit downhill. Kind of just a big hyzer. Good hole to get us started off. Just see how the stability feels for this, if we can glide it down to the basket. Should be a pretty good disc to throw on this. I think my normal throw, I normally throw a Firebird on this hole, so kind of a similar disc. Well, it looks pretty good. Oh, that might be parked. I might start throwing that disc on this hole, Jesus. Okay, so not quite parked, but definitely one of my better drives on this hole. Probably could have pushed it a little further, but first throw. Not bad. I'm liking it already. Hole 2, 330, a little bit of a headwind. You can kind of miss left coming up here and you'll have kind of a long putt. I typically go with a mid-range just to kind of keep it straight. This will have a little bit of fade at the end for sure. Really the mistake you don't want to make is pulling it too far right or going too high and catching that tree early right. You want to try and make it as far as you can down the fairway. I'll try and put it up there on a pretty straight line, see if I can get all the way to the basket. Look at how nice that thing flies. Oh, we caught that little tree at the very end, but I feel like you could just hit gaps with that so nice. I can hit it hard. It doesn't turn over. It just goes straight and then has the fade at the end. Like the Drive, which I loved, you had to hit on hyzer and let it flip up, and then it could turn over. That thing doesn't turn over unless you're giving it anhyzer out of the hand or you have like a crazy headwind, but I'm loving it so far. Oh man, if this thing just squeaked through, it would have been parked. Well, we got a bit of a putt. We'll flip this, get a little bit off this fence. Oh, come on, just short. Had to pop that a little more for it to go in. For hole 3, we've got kind of a similar shot shape to hole 1, just kind of a hyzer, pushing out, crashing down. I think this is, oh, there we go, 295. So kind of just a little bit of a spike hyzer. You don't want to push too far. I've been throwing mid-range on this one lately, so 10 speed is definitely pushing a little bit. I'll try and give it a good amount of hyzer and get it to crash in. I think this disc could do it pretty well though. I think that's the one. Oh yeah, kind of flash chains a little bit even. Looks like we played the height pretty much perfectly. Came in just a little short. And for any Rochester natives watching this channel, you will know how crazy it is that this green is not a total soup bowl in the middle of March. It's actually surprisingly dry. Ready for it to not really be muddy at all though. Might have another 2 months until that goes away. So we don't have a whole lot of wind here, but it looks like when we're getting little gusts, it's going left to right. So should be nice for holding the disc straight for us long enough to not crash into the bushes up on the left. I don't know how long this hole is exactly, the T sign's over there. It's just under 400. It's kind of just punch it straight through. This is kind of a good shot for the PD, maybe like a CD1 as well, but is it CD2 or CD1? I actually don't even know. The one with it's a -1, 2. Either way, I'm gonna throw it pretty much the same as I did on hole 2, just flat. Not gonna flip it over too much and try to get it to fade into the gap. Give us a putt inside the circle. Oh, well, came up short. Got our first upshot with the PD now. Yeah, I thought the headwind was gonna do a little bit more of holding it right, but I don't know, I guess it holds pretty well into this wind. It's kind of swirly too. It feels like a tailwind now that I'm up here, but it looked like a headwind based on what the flag was doing. Either way, landed short, stayed dry, try and push it up to the basket somehow. I don't really know the best way to do this. I can go hyzer up and try to crash it in. I think I'll do that. It's like a standstill hyzer up over those branches. Hopefully don't land in that bush. Oh, caught the bush at the end. Oh, hopefully we have a putt. Well, fortunately managed to land on the other side of this bush. Oh, I guess we'll have to straddle it. I don't wanna, I could just have my head hitting this thing. We'll go straddle. Oh, nice catch. Good little par save there. Still doing pretty good. I think 2 down through 4. Okay, hole 5 is 339 feet. It kind of goes down into the water and then back uphill again. I frequently push it a little bit long with my 7 speeds, but usually you can kind of crash into some of the woods on the left and the right and even behind it, but there is, it'll be long. So gonna try and control the distance a little bit and not just smash it all the way long. But really all we care about is hitting this gap. So just gonna hit it flat, let it push. This time we got different wind, pretty much the opposite, right to left now. So it's gonna push it out to the left. So I might give it a little bit of flex to hang it out right a little longer, and then the wind will kind of push it to the left at the end of the flight. Oh my gosh. That was an inch away from going all the way. I didn't quite give it the flex I was supposed to. Believe it or not, I have actually never kicked over here before, but I feel like you can just throw a little spike hyzer up over this little tiny little pine tree, crash it into the basket. Should be a pretty easy par. Would have loved to see this thing glide up there though. I love watching the PD fly, man. Getting used to the stability still a little bit. I think I'm expecting it to flip up a little bit, like my drive, but you really can just hit it flat and it'll just go dead straight. A little bit short. It's okay though. All right, left ourselves a little bit of a tester here. Probably because I'm throwing a 70-foot upshot with a PD up over some trees. Oh, that just stuck to my fingers a little bit. And player 2. Yeah. Well, not ideal. So hole 6, got a par 4. Not really worried about the tee shot, just kind of punching one up there with a hyzer, get out into the fairway. It's gonna be kind of tough getting up and down with a PD on that like short little upshot, as we saw on that last upshot. Not exactly easy throwing shorter upshots with a 10 speed. We'll just kind of figure it out when we get up there. Throw a hyzer up here. We'll see how this holds a hyzer. Sometimes with less stable discs, I push into that tree that you can see right in front of us. You want to get left because the basket isn't the one you can see off in the distance. It's the one down the left of the fairway. So you want to get left after you beat this first initial OB, and you don't want to push into those trees. So I'm going to give it a good amount of hyzer and see how it glides. A little bit of slippage on my foot there, but I think it was pretty good. Didn't quite see where it landed, but it looked nice. I actually landed in a really good spot here, especially if I had like a zone shot here. But because of the arbitrary rules I set for myself, I gotta throw the PD on the upshot here. I'm gonna guess it's about 200 in. So I'll try and throw like a little baby flex maybe, hopefully not crash in too early. Obviously if I give this thing any juice, it's going way long of the basket. But we'll just give it like a little upshots into a headwind, so that could help us. On second thought, I could throw a standstill forehand hyzer into the basket. It's not ideal because there's stuff in the way, but I think it has a higher percentage chance than trying to throw a really soft backhand. So I'm gonna try that instead. And I don't think I've thrown a forehand with this yet. Kind of like an easy little flick. Hopefully it just crashes into a nice putt. Oh, push a little inside. Oh, that's in a puddle of water. It's literally floating. Well, I'll take it behind the puddle. You know what? I'm just gonna pretend I landed slightly in front of this puddle because behind it, there's really no putt at all. I make the rules anyways, so it doesn't matter. There we go. Well, there's still not really a putt. I got branches all in my way. Oh, a lot of branches. Oh, that water's stinky. Easy par. I have not yet thrown a proper forehand with this disc, like a tee shot. So I'm really interested to see how this goes. Hole 7, 360 forehand. I mean, if this is a good forehand disc, if it flies similar on forehand than it does on backhand, should be able to get there, but never thrown it forehand. So it could be kind of like if you watch my tempo review not too long ago, maybe great on backhand, doesn't quite hold forehand that well because it doesn't like the wobble that you get out of your hand. I'm gonna hit it on, I guess, pretty flat. There's a little bit of a tailwind, so maybe I'll hit a little bit of hyzer because I don't want to get pushed too far into the left, and we want to get to the right so we can make it to the basket. So yeah, I'm not really gonna try anything too specific here, honestly. I'm just gonna throw it at a pretty good, 70% and see how it flies. Wow. Tailwind did me dirty big time, but that came out of my hand really clean, very promising. Probably could have done without the tailwind. With the wind and the way this hole's shaped, I would certainly want to throw something more overstable than that if I was going forehand anyways, so not a great test, but it felt good and it flew pretty nice, honestly. We're kind of at that range where you're just jump putting and it's not going in, you're kind of just laying up. So I'll give it a little step putt. We got a tailwind though. Maybe if I hang it out to the right, it'll crash in. Nope, does not make it there at all. All right, this is probably the only hole where it just doesn't really make sense to throw this disc at all. Hole 8, 207. Got the mound with the basket on it up there. I don't really know the best way to approach this. I think I'll just kind of go forehand, standstill, spike hyzer. Hope it gets in around the trees. I've done it before with a Firebird and put it pretty close, so could do it right here with the PD. Is that on the mound? I think it may be a little bit short, but possibly on the mound. Huh, it looks like we actually really made this work. Wasn't even really that short. It was a great shot. Beauty. All right, last hole here, 381. Got to push it through that light gap. Don't want to go left or right at the end. I think this is the hardest hole in the course. I think I've birdied it one time, maybe twice. Never really can seem to get it. This is the only hole where I'm really gonna try and give this a decent amount of power. So, the fear can be that I turn it over and go into the trees on the right, find its way into the water, which is on the right side. But I mean, based on what I've seen so far, it seems like this thing can handle a pretty good amount of torque. I really shouldn't be afraid to just give it a good rip and see how it goes. So I'm gonna give it a good little rip. We got a little bit of a tailwind too, so that should be pretty helpful for not going too far right. So far, I'm impressed. Got one more hole to seal the deal. Oh my gosh. That completely slipped out of my hands. I haven't sweat when playing disc golf in like 6 months, and now it's 70 degrees out, and I haven't used a chalk bag all around. Well, I'll just scramble. I don't want to throw again. Oh. This definitely was not the way I wanted to end this video. I don't think there's much worse feelings in disc golf than the disc just completely slipping out of your hands. Maybe a grip issue with, too much moisture, too dry, just letting go of it on accident. It's never fun. You know what? I have no idea how I'm gonna do this. I guess I'll just go a little pet and pending backhand, try to make a long putt. Okay, that was terrible. I'll tell you what, I've never been in that tree before. That's a new one for me. Oh my gosh, I went too far. I actually almost just threw this into the water back here. Maybe I can save the bogey from about 25, I think. 25 with a headwind, maybe 28. It feels like a little further than 25, maybe 30. Well, we'll just go for it. That's a better note to end on. So the PD, I don't know how I was sleeping on this disc for so long. Didn't try it until this year. Loving it. I can throw it forehand, something I wasn't able to do with my drive. It fills that slot of a super reliable disc, forehand and backhand, that goes far, further than my fairways, feels like a fairway in the hand, but just as that step below a actual distance driver where it has really nice consistency, really good feel, and it's just a solid neutral flying control driver. If you ever thought of picking one of these up, don't be fooled by the 3 fade. It's not the most overstable disc. It feels more closer to a 2 fade, especially once you can start beating one of these in. You know, you see Simon or Gannon throwing their PDs, the color dipped ones. Obviously they're not like super overstable and you can get a little bit of flip out of them. So I'm pretty excited to see where this goes over time, but for sure making the bag. Very happy to try it out. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Peace.